All right. Hey, it's Stephen Mark Rainey, author of book, former editor of Death Realm, and the Crossroad Press gang decided we should get together and make a video tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Blue Devil Island, which was a World War II novel that I wrote many years ago, and Crossroad published the paperback version of it, oh gosh, a few years back, what, 2017 or something like that. And Joshua Saxon, who is here with us, did the audio book of Blue Devil Island. And if I'm right, that was the first audio book for Crossroad that you
Yes.
did.
Yes, it
Okay.
was.
All right. Well, Dave, you want to introduce yourself briefly? And most people are probably going to know who you are and maybe run screaming. But
I'm David Neal Wilson. I'm the CEO and publisher at Crossroad Press. Published a lot of books by Mr. Rainey here, and 76 audiobooks, it turns out, by Joshua. And he's right, the first book was June 4th, 2019. So just since 2019, he's done 76 titles just for Crossroad Press alone, which is pretty much of an amazing feat considering half those are Brian Lumley books that could be doorstops.
Yeah. So Joshua is a very prolific narrator for audiobooks and has, like Dave said, done what, 76 just for Crossroad, and you've done plenty of others as well.
Yep. 76 for Crossroad. I started in 2019. Now I'm just shy of 200.
Wow. All right. All right. All right. Well, Blue Devil Island, this is the Crossroad edition right here. It originally came out from Five Star Press, which was the speculative fiction line from, what was it, Thomson Gale, and I think that was actually in 2007. And World War II has always been an area of passion for me, especially in the Pacific and aviation particularly. So I decided somewhere along the line I wanted to write a novel that combined my love of flying and military air combat, from in the Pacific, and combine it with my other passion of Lovecraftian horror. So it was a big project. I spent many years, first of all, researching. I mean, I already had tons and tons of stuff in my head, and I started playing flight sims and stuff that were very immersive and very realistic. So I pretty much learned everything I needed to know to get an airplane up in the air and hopefully shoot down Japanese. But uh, so I used all that technical knowledge I acquired, and then combined it with what I hope is a compelling story with a lot of cosmic horror going on. Publishers Weekly liked it, Library Journal liked it, and all. And so when it came time to, who was it? Marietta Press in Georgia wanted to do a paperback edition of it. So they did, but that press didn't last very long. And after they went under, uh, Crossroad was good enough to pick it up. And so far, I'm pretty sure that Blue Devil Island's been my best selling title over many years. So, Dave, like I said, is the CEO and founder of Crossroad Press. Dave, you want to talk just very briefly about Crossroad and where things have got where you've gotten today and how.
It's been kind of crazy. We started it out in an armchair, and it was just me trying to get my own books into a ebook format because I saw what was coming. And, then a couple of people said, "Hey, could you do that for my books too?" And I'm like, "Not for free." But we tried to just keep it where the authors get most of the money, and we've managed to pay on time for what, 16, 17 years now. never been in the black, never taken chances that a lot of other presses have done that have pushed them under, never tried to be a New York City publisher and compete, which sometimes is bad because obviously they sell a lot more books than we do. But we looked the other day and we have sold several million ebooks in the time that we've been publishing. Thank you,
I
Clive
certainly
Barker.
can't complain about sales figures from Crossroad. You know, the
I
best,
think a lot
easily
of
the
people are
best of
surprised.
so many presses.
I think a lot of people are surprised because and especially every once in a while when there's like a really big bump in sales, but most people aren't used to getting royalties every month for books.
Yeah,
You know, I know back when I sold to Five Star the same way you did, you got paid once, and if you ever saw any more money for it, it was a miracle.
yeah, for sure, for sure. How did you and Joshua hook up for the business relationship that
Well, I
y'all have
blame
now
you.
had for quite a while?
I blame you because you
Oh,
chose him out of he auditioned for your book,
okay.
and you
That
chose him out of the
I'm old and I forget things, and I, honest to God, I do not remember. I mean, I remember, listening to a lot of auditions for those early days, but if you ask me to name a reader now, I
yeah.
don't think
Well,
I
we,
ever
we didn't
could.
know anything about Joshua at that time either, but you chose him, and it turned out to be a really good book. And then he got his name in the hat for the Lumley books, which is hilarious to me because all of the other narrators that tried to do those books for us were native British speakers. None of them, other than Joshua, was invited to go visit with Brian Lumley's old war buddies because they thought he was British.
Yeah.
So, and they've stuck with him. Brian, and now that he's passed, his wife just love Josh, and he's basically the voice of everything, including today. Necroscope went live in the UK today, so he got to do the
Oh,
very first
nice,
book in that series.
nice, nice. And Joshua recently narrated my latest novel, The House at Blacktooth Pond. And I was over the moon when I learned that Joshua could do it. I mean, I've had some really good narrators, and I admire anybody that can do, work so compelling. And but I've just got a special place in my heart for Joshua here,
I was
and
going to write out a laundry list and have him read it for us,
All right.
just to prove
yeah.
a point.
I would
So,
do it.
Joshua, when did you actually start doing the narrating? I mean, did you act, or what
No,
brought you into this
no,
field?
no, I was a construction worker.
Okay,
Um,
so
I
you
was,
could you could
I was
speak
a,
authoritatively to the peons, right?
yeah, I was a defense contractor. I had a friend of mine who worked for an online education company, and he had a guy who was supposed to do a voiceover for him who got sick, and he called me up and he said, "Hey, your voice is sort of like his. Can you come in and do this? You know, I'll buy you beer." And I said, "Okay." So I went and did it, and he said, "You have a really good voice. You should. Have you ever thought about doing audiobooks?" And I was like, "No, I do steam fitting." Like, okay. And um and I started submitting my voice to auditions on Audible, and here we are.
What
Was
was your first
Crossroad
book?
your first audio book? I
No,
know
so
Crossroad was first.
my first audiobook was a children's book in England,
Mhm.
and it was um The Blue Knights of the Realm. And it was this British guy who messaged me through Audible, and he said, "Hey Joshua, can we meet downtown in London for a coffee and talk this over?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm in Maryland in the United States."
Well, that's a pretty good testament, I
Anyway,
guess.
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, I just pretty recently, within the last couple of months, I listened to F. Paul Wilson's book the latest one, I guess, that you did, Lexi.
Lexi.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Those that the two books in conjunction that he did there were quite entertaining, and I was again. I loved listening to it, and nowadays because my eyes are such that I just can't spend much time reading for pleasure. I'm on the computer writing almost all day, and then I try to, I do a lot of other reading, but you know, anything I want to immerse myself in story wise nowadays is an audiobook.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there's, I don't want to bring up there's always that question about whether audiobooks count as reading.
Oh,
People think they do, people think they don't. I think it's a bunch of garbage.
yeah. I mean, how can it not be? You're immersed in a book. The story goes into your head, and whether it goes through your eyes or goes through your ears,
Right.
And
it's
you can't
obviously it's
skip
a different animal.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
you
Um,
can't skip ahead like you can on a print book. You're going to get all the words and all the
yeah.
characters.
Yeah. Before we get too into the weeds, Mark, I had a question for you about Blue Devil Island. Is it okay to ask story questions or do we want to?
You may, if I remember them.
Okay. So when I first started reading Blue Devil Island, I first off, I am a huge fan of war horror.
Hmm.
I think it's an undersung
Correct.
category in writing. I think there needs to be more war horror, especially cosmic horror. But I kept thinking to myself, you can ask Dave, I do a lot of research when I do a book. Um, and so I'm studying the F-65 and the squadrons, and I'm reading about the Marianas fight where they just went in and I mean, they
Turkey
just
shoot.
obliterated. Yeah. And I kept wondering to myself, why make a story that's so technically intricate as far as tactics, strategy, placement, time? I mean, there's enough of a story in just the squadrons and what they encountered in the in theater to
Mhm.
write an incredible book. Why add cosmic horror um,
Yeah.
to that picture? It was, I didn't mean that in a negative way.
Oh, I understand
I thought
because
I thought the cosmic horror accentuated what was already there because you're dealing with an already overwhelming incident in World War II. And then on top of it, you're layering something nobody can possibly understand that's having an effect on what's going on in their theater of war. So it just
yeah,
creates this maelstrom of chaos. And well, I thought it was genius. I was like, you could write a great naval novel, like a great novel about just
I've asked myself 1,000 times, what is the draw to add something exactly like you said to something that's already so intense and so personal and both personal and can be on a spectacle scale. I mean,
right,
it's such a scope, just a war novel by itself. But cosmic horror, I feel, if done well, has quite a scope as well. And what better, I guess, than to have double the scope. But let me tell you what actually was probably the genesis of the idea was, and we're all probably old enough to remember this. When I was a kid, there were these comic books called Star Spangled War stories that
uh-huh,
were all, they had soldiers versus dinosaurs.
yep,
And I freaking love it. I mean, you can see on my shelves, there's Godzilla's just all over. I've been into big monsters since I was a kid. And I think the Lovecraftian stuff is sort of a logical progression from giant monsters because the scope of Lovecraft is galactic. I mean, intergalactic. Um, but the thing about the way I wrote Blue Devil Island is that I wanted to tell it in an intimate fashion. I did it in first person. We have it from the point of view of the commander of the squadron, the pilots. Uh, so you don't get this big overview with lots of perspectives from different characters. You see it from the point of view of one human being watching everything unfold. And that way, that to me just brought the bigger scale of everything that was happening into a very a personal point of view or perspective. And I think more people, I would hope more people would relate to the way that story is told by doing it that way, as opposed to having a big overarching uh, point of view from above. You know?
Well, see, I thought the stuff that made it scary was it you throw in all these little details into the story. You've got the sickness that plagues them because they're in the jungle and they
Yeah.
have, there's the constant sets of maintenance that's being done on the planes. There's landing being dangerous, and they're wondering if their crewmates are going to get back, their squadron mates are going to get back in one piece. Um, the ejecting being incredibly dangerous with,
Yeah.
gunfire. I mean, just there's all of this stuff that's the terror and stress of war by itself. And all of that is its own set of stressors. And then you've got
Mm-hmm.
this encroaching horror on the island itself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it feels like there's like a it's like a max Q level of overwhelming chaos at some point where you feel like you have to kind of um, release yourself to it because it's so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, one of you mentioned the just the daily grind being on the
right.
island, all the things they had to deal with. I read tons of first person accounts of pilots who were in that situation. I read every book I could find on it. My go to was a book called The Jolly Rogers by Tom Blackburn, who was the CO
Right.
of the VF-17 that was in that area. Of course, Conquest Island, where Blue Devil Island is set, is fictitious. But I actually I used a lot of real individuals and squadrons. And in fact, in one scene, they encounter the Jolly Rogers, VF-17, in their planes. And
Yes,
one
that's
of
right.
the I actually found this is where the internet came in so handy at the time because I found actual combat reports from that area. And there were times that it's like if I said that at 2 p.m. on October 10th, it was dumping rain, that's because the combat report that I read said it was dumping rain at that time. Uh, but all that, only I would register all these tiny details. But I hope that it would bring sort of a sense of verisimilitude uh, to everything that's happening. And I will say that I received the finest compliment, a humbling compliment. The CEO of the company where I worked, um, when Blue Devil Island came out, was a Hellcat pilot in the Pacific in World War II. And my CEO knew that I published this book. So he bought a copy for his father and sent it to him. And one day I was in the office and his father called me on the phone and said how much he had enjoyed the book. And he said, I almost could believe you were there. He said, there are a few little things here and there that, if you weren't there, nobody would ever know. But I almost fell over. Right? And I've never had that kind of, affirming uh, remark on anything I've ever done that meant so much to me.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Joshua was
So
kind of that way on all these books because I know that I did a lot of research on Jurassic Ark, which was never the point. I was never going to write that book. It was supposed to be a parody, a joke, and it wasn't. And he brought that stuff to life. Like it's unbelievable sometimes.
Did Mark, did you read Jurassic Ark?
I haven't yet.
Oh,
It's in the queue.
okay. Yeah.
It's not your mother's Noah's Ark.
It was I I was fully prepared for a comedy.
Me too.
Well,
Dave
I
told me
mean,
that it's
the
called Jurassic
title
Ark.
has that. Yeah, the title has that ring to it.
Well, that's
Knowing
what
that,
happened.
I have read tons of Dave stuff, so I can always expect the unexpected in something like that.
The title and the cover were first. I mean, they were done before I even really got into that book. and it was a mistake. It's really killed that book. I'm probably going to re-release it with a new title and a new cover because it's really not about. It's got a lot of dinosaurs in it,
yeah,
but it's really not a parody anymore of Ham's Noah's Ark thing. No. I always
yeah,
like to talk to Joshua. It doesn't matter who the author is, whether it was you or whether it was one of the anthologies that he did, because he gets it and he actually doesn't just read it like a lot of the narrators will say, well, here's a pile of errors we found and you might want to correct these. But Joshua talks about all of them on a literary side. Like he really gets it. And when we did the Last Temptation of Christ, I think that kind of came home because he's now done piles of Kazanzaga's books also.
Yeah, he's an amazing writer.
yeah.
Your
Joshua, do you have a project in the works currently? Are you
um
narrating something as we speak?
so I'm doing the second Necroscope book
Ah, yes.
for Barbara. They're to be released only in the UK because the rights in the US are held with Macmillan. And then after I do these, I've got the second book in the Grail Covenant series, which Dave wrote. Actually, I want to do the second and third back to back. They got a really great reception here, but they also got a great reception in the UK.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, people have come back to that whole trilogy because of having an audiobook, because never was anything like that from White Wolf. They didn't even do ebooks. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
let that one company make PDF scans, and it was
yeah,
awful.
Yeah.
but
I'm
yeah,
uh, I'm definitely gonna have to check out the Lumley work you've done, and
oh yeah.
especially if if they're telling you to come over after work or whatever in England.
Actually, so I got my greatest compliment was Barbara Lumley told me this is after Brian passed, but she said that he hated audiobook narrators, hated every narrator they ever had.
Oh yeah.
Um, and he didn't consider audiobooks to like he liked them because they made the money, but And she said that she would walk into his office and he'd have my audiobooks playing of his stuff. And I was like, that's it. That's all I need.
So you may have been the one to sway him in that
Yeah.
regard.
Knowing Brian, he'd just be like, no, I was just listening to make sure he's not screwing
And
anything up.
and to put
Yeah.
that in perspective, the Titus Crow books were done by Simon Vance, and he's won like every award that ever existed
Yeah.
for audiobooks, and is a British speaker.
Yeah.
Ah,
Still not his favorite.
Is it okay if I ask more questions about Blue Devil Island?
I
Yes.
ask away.
Okay. Because I have way too many.
Yeah, we've got
Oh,
about 7 minutes left. So
okay. All right. So the 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 entity in the volcano or in the mountain,
mhm.
where did that come from? Did you have a background for that?
I created one. I have created sort of a pantheon of beasties and entities and things. And when I wrote, when I started up Blue Devil Island, I didn't want just some nebulous horror. I wanted there to be a backstory for that thing, almost none of which actually appears there. But as I wrote it, I knew what the background was and what I ended up. I actually had been. The reason I did that was because I had finally, after about 18 attempts, I had read the entire Silmarillion, and and I figured, okay, that at least motivated me to put together this backstory that uh, for well, I don't even remember what the name of the entity is off the top of my head. He never made a resurgence.
It is
But
kind of
anywho, it did. There was a it wasn't just random shit happening. It was for a reason, and that the reason comes through, I think. And of course, there was these very mutant type natives that appeared,
Yes.
and they had a. I ended up giving them a very different role. Why they were there. Uh, than it appeared. I mean, you think they're doing one thing, and
Right.
by the time it all ends, you realize, whoops, we made a big mistake.
So my question, okay, so then here's my follow-up question. As so the missions that everybody that they're going on are becoming more and more intense as things heat up in theater. And my question was the amount of violence in war affecting the entity? Did it feed on that? Is that what was bringing it? Do you understand
That
what I mean?
is, I would say yes. It's sort of implied in the book. It's never spelled out, and that's one of the things I always try to do with cosmic horror. I may know what is at least I do. They have a motivation, but I don't always spell it out. Uh, otherwise, it becomes too mundane. Maybe
Right.
T.E.D. Klein was my biggest influence for that kind of storytelling, like Dark Gods, his collection. So much of it, uh, it's obvious that he knew every detail, but he didn't always tell me as the reader. And I had wiggle room to make my own decisions about whether is that what's happening or is it not. And I like things that are. I like to have some things sewed up, but I'm not devoted to tying up every loose end. The main threads I like to tie together, but sometimes something that's out there dangling uh, that might linger. To me, it does.
Well, the nature of cosmic horror would dictate that you can't sew it up.
Exactly that.
It,
Exactly that.
it's
Yes.
impossible. And you
Yeah.
know
And
what's interesting?
I'm currently writing the sequel to House at Blacktooth Pond, which I've had a couple of projects interfere with the flow on that thing, so it's not moving as quickly as I'd like, but I'm back on it hard for right now, and I'm thinking it's going to end up a very different animal than the first book. It's not. It's obviously it's connected, but there's going to be a whole different uh, set of complications.
I'll never be able to hear whippoorwill again.
Well, I hope not. My problem is that I haven't heard one in many, many, many years. I grew up with them all around this house here because this was nothing but woods and this house when I was a kid.
Right.
And so the whippoorwills were out there. And of course, in those days, I watched The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits with my dad and stuff like that. And, to me, the sounds of those whippoorwills, I equated those with the monsters in The Outer Limits. There was no way those were just birds out there. And that
Right.
has been a constant theme. And
Did they sound too blue to fly?
did they what?
Hank Williams reference.
I'm not
Sorry.
surprised. But this is Dave.
But on that note,
Yeah.
Joshua did some of my cosmic horror too. He did the Dunhuat horror with
yep,
Cletus J.
yep.
Diggs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now
That-
I've never listened to the audio
Oh,
of that.
That's in that Yog
absolute
Sothoth
blast.
collection. Yeah, I like writing. I like writing those stories because Cletus has such a. He clearly has no idea what's going on. They're up against
Yeah.
cosmic horror, and they're used to being up against the sheriff and keeping
Yeah.
people out of their fishing hole.
Right.
So, but they do okay.
Dog is my favorite.
Dog. Yeah, he's got a dog named Dog.
We're coming up on about the end of our time for this, I believe. Yep, got
Right,
about
gentlemen.
2 minutes, so I'll stop the recording shortly. But Dave, I appreciate you coming up with the idea for this, and Joshua, good Lord, we've
I talk to you all day.
communicated for ages and ages. It feels
Yeah.
like, but I don't think we've ever virtually met this way.
No, and it was good to meet you virtually. We
Yeah,
should do this
indeed.
more often.
I
We
think that
should.
would be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's actually easier than the last time Josh and I met because we live just far enough away that it's really irritating to get close.
Yeah, that's true. We should do this more often.
Yeah, this is easier.
That sounds really good.
We could
All
talk
right.
about
Well,
other books.
hopefully this will not scare away people that you don't want to be scared away.
No,
And Dave, again, thanks. And Joshua, thank you for coming in, giving your insight. And I really appreciate your kind words.
no worries.
We got a lot.
Absolutely.
right, well, everybody that's listening and watching, go away. Be scared. Be very, be very scared.
Have a good evening, folks.
Thanks a bunch.